going on? My man, Windy, has his fingers in the air. Let's do a Windy watch because we're getting closer and closer to the draft, which means if there were going to be trades, we're going to see them. Windy, we haven't talked about this man in a while. What is the latest on Giannis?
There's a reason we haven't, Greeny, because Giannis Antetokounmpo has gone overseas to travel with his family. He has made no trade request to the Bucks. He has made no trade hint to the Bucks. The Bucks are proceeding with their offseason as if Giannis is going to be with them, and there's no significant trade talks right now. The plan is for Giannis Antetokounmpo to be a Buck. Now, he can change all that with a simple request, but that request has not happened, and it's not clear that it's going to happen anytime soon.
All right, next up is Kevin Durant, because that's another huge name that could be changing places. What's the latest on KD?
Well, this one is a different story. I do believe Kevin Durant will be traded in the coming weeks. Today, the Suns are naming their new head coach, Jordan Ott. He's at an introductory press conference. They've been going through that process, and I expect them to look into the Durant trade market pretty soon. Now, there are going to be a handful of teams that have interest in Durant. The key with Durant is this. He has 1 year left on his contract. Is he going to want to sign an extension, and is he going to want to be a part of the process of the trade? And are the Suns going to let him be involved in the process? That's a key factor going forward.
All right, and I want to come back to him, but I want to tie it together with the Knicks coaching search. We know they made a move away from Tibbs. We've got the Jason Kidd reporting out there. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so the Knicks absolutely would like to hire Jason Kidd to be their next head coach. The question is, will the Dallas Mavericks allow them? And that's really where this is. It will be in the Mavericks' court here. The asking of permission is a formality. If the Mavericks would agree to send Jason Kidd to the Knicks, I believe he would be with the Knicks. There's not going to be an interview. The question here is, what would the Mavericks do? The Mavericks have three choices, Greeny. They can just say no, and this happens. You know, last year, for example, the Phoenix Suns wanted to hire Chauncey Billups, and the Trailblazers said, no, he's our coach. They could negotiate a new contract with Jason Kidd to make him not even think about the Knicks, or they could trade him. And I'll just point out, 11 years ago, Jason Kidd did this exact same thing. Wanted to be the head coach of the Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo, got himself traded there for 2 second-round picks. So the league is waiting and watching for that.
Okay, so Alan Hahn, you are around the Knicks and the organization day in and day out. Am I living in a world where by the end of this month, 2 Hall of Famers, Jason Kidd, who is in the Hall of Fame as a player, and Kevin Durant, who most certainly will both be with the New York Knicks?
I think anything's possible at this point because you don't fire a coach like Tom Thibodeau if you don't have a plan, if you don't have something already in mind that you know that you can go right to. Now, the thing is, you don't just do it immediately. Number one, there's an NBA Finals going on, but this does feel like a franchise that looks at opportunity in the East and says the time to strike is now. And they're going to try to swing and swing big. Jason Kidd has a relationship with Jalen Brunson. He coached him there already in Dallas. He certainly has a relationship and a mutual respect with Kevin Durant. We have seen them interact several times, even though they have not worked together. It is obviously something for the Knicks. That would be a huge swing that would set a tone in the East to say that the Knicks are trying to win a championship, and they're going for it right now. KD's going to be 37 when the season begins next year. This is not about the next 5 years. This is about right now.
Absolutely, and that's why, Wendy, I was bringing this up yesterday, and to me, if I'm Jason Kidd, if I'm Kevin Durant, if I'm anybody with options, even Giannis to some degree, I'm staying away from the West. If you have the opportunity to be in the East, with the injury to Jason Tatum, the East to me feels wide open for the Knicks or any other team that feels like a contender. The West is a murderer's row. Is that a factor in all of this when you consider what Jason Kidd might do and what Kevin Durant might do?
Without question. I mean, that's probably playing into the Giannis decision. Giannis is looking around at the East saying, you know, I've got a team in Milwaukee here that might be able to do some things. So definitely, if I'm Kevin Durant, I'm looking East. I think the key thing, and Greeny, this is going to keep happening over the next month, and I'm just going to apologize in advance because when I start talking about the second apron, I know that people's eyes glaze over. It's terribly named. It's very complicated. But the Phoenix Suns can't take back more money than they send out. And Kevin Durant makes a humongous amount of money. He makes over $50 million. So anybody that has a dream of wanting Kevin Durant has to realize you're going to have to send the Suns players and you're going to have to send the Suns more money. So when you start dreaming up your Kevin Durant trade scenarios, whether it's New York or anywhere else, you got to realize you're going to have to send some real talent and some real money for him. And so keep that in mind. And the Knicks, that's what the Knicks have to consider. They already have a shallow team. If they trade for Durant, they're going to take on more money. There's no other way to do the trade legally unless you bring in third or fourth teams.
That said, I appreciate all of that. That said, if any team has behaved like they are all in to win right now, it is the Knicks. You don't fire your coach after making the conference final for the first time in a quarter century unless you think next year we are winning the whole thing.
Yeah, you don't fire a coach who's won back-to-back 50 wins, who's fourth on the list, all-time list in franchise history in wins, a guy that brought back a standard to your franchise. You don't make a move like that just because the players weren't happy and wanted to move on. You got to have a plan in place already. You had to already know. And Wendy knows this. We all know this. There's always back-channel conversations. You already know who isn't really comfortable where they are, who might want out. Jason Kidd has done this before, as Wendy has said. But it is also whispers that even before the Luka trade, there was some thought that he might be kind of done in Dallas and wanted to move on. And New York would be a place for him. And if you're the Knicks, that's what you do. You have the might, you have the money, you have all the ability to swing big now.
Man, I'm shook.
Not okay.
Get me Windy's stat. All right, Brian Windhorst with Winds of Change. Windy, take me through two huge stories in the NBA right now.
Number one, Greeny, keep O's away from me. Number two, ask him where KD's going. So the Knicks are definitely a team that is going to have some interest in Kevin Durant. There are going to be a handful of them. He is still, even at age 37, an incredibly valuable player. But I'm just going to be straight with you, okay? The way the Knicks get this done is Karl Anthony Towns. And it has to do with the trade rules. It has to do with stuff like that. And the Knicks have to trade 3 rotation players otherwise. Just keep that in mind when you dream of your Knicks trades. Speaking of Knicks transactions, look, their number one choice right now appears to be Jason Kidd to be their next head coach. But Jason Kidd is under contract for 2 more years at major money in a team that thinks they can compete for the Western Conference Championship next year. Obviously, that's complicated. Jason Kidd has been traded as a coach before in his career. Way back in 2014, he worked behind the scenes to help engineer getting himself from Brooklyn to Milwaukee. Right now, the situation is in the Mavericks' court. The Mavericks can entertain retaining Jason Kidd, shut this whole thing down, or they can entertain a trade offer from the Knicks. We'll see in the coming days which direction they go.
Okay, so I wanted a lot of people in on this conversation because there are so many tentacles. It is all so fascinating. And let's start with the first piece of that. If acquiring Kevin Durant would involve trading away Karl Anthony Towns, and I don't want to put you in a compromising position, so I'm not going to ask you whether they should do it or not because you have to deal with those guys every single day. But as you hear him say that, what goes through your mind?
I would say that's probably the only way it gets done. You know, anytime you're going to make a trade for a guy who's making $54 million, you've got to look at your team and say, you can't afford to give up multiple players. So it would have to be a big contract for another big contract and swap out players. And that would tell you a lot about how they felt Karl Anthony Towns fit in New York. While the regular season was great, there were enough times during the playoffs there was concerns defensively. And so you're swapping out one superstar for another. And that's the only way I think it can get done.
Bart Scott, you host a general sports talk show in New York. So while obviously your primary expertise is football, you talk about this stuff all the time. Should the Knicks trade Karl Anthony Towns to Phoenix for Kevin Durant?
I believe so. We had that conversation. A lot of the callers believe that, maybe Kevin Durant at his age is not a good fit, but you have to have an expiring contract, a contract that's going to be gone in 2 years if you think you're going to give Brunson, who's eligible for like $65 to $70 million a year in a couple of years.
Don't go so far down the road.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yes.
Do the Knicks win a championship, have a better chance of winning a
so.
Championship with KD than Karl Anthony Towns?
I believe so, but you got to depend on Mitchell Robinson to stay healthy, and that's a big if.
Right. So you,
Yes.
Peter Schrager, Knick fan, you make that trade?
I'm just watching the playoffs, just looking for offense at the end there. KD is instant offense. I know it seems so easy and low-hanging fruit, just get the best player. Kevin Durant can, on his own, score 21 points in a fourth quarter. And I liked what Kat did this year. I would hate to see them blow the whole thing up. But Durant, even as a hardcore, very appealing. It really is.
Last 12 years, he's shot 50% every season from the field,
Really?
40% from three. He's been an incredibly efficient scoring machine.
You know what bothered me as a fan of sports watching Karl Anthony Towns? Get back on defense. Like, how many shots did the Pacers make after a made basket by the Knicks? Like, that lack of hustle bothers me.
Who's going to rebound?
He is a flawed star, but they do very different things. He is also, while he is a flawed star, he's also a lot younger than Kevin Durant, and that brings me back to Brian Windhorst. Because if you told me, and this is what I'm hearing from the Knicks fans that I encounter just everywhere you go in this city, It's less about KD than it is about Giannis. Now, you told us earlier this morning that Giannis right now is in Europe with his family, and so far the Bucks haven't heard anything from him. Does that suggest to us that the draft is going to come and go, the summer is going to come and go, and Giannis is still going to be in Milwaukee?
Well, I'm very careful to say anything on June 10th that is still applicable by June 25th, Greeny. The league is just too volatile. But right now, there is no Giannis Antetokounmpo trade market. There is no Giannis Antetokounmpo trade discussions. He has not asked for it. The Bucks are not looking to trade him. And I just want to point something out about Karl Towns. While everybody in New York may want to trade him, he is an in his prime all-NBA player that contributed significantly to the Knicks going the farthest they have in 25 years.
Right.
I just want to point that out.
No, it's 100% right. That's why it is a difficult decision. But Kevin Durant, however, is, you could make an argument, the single greatest scorer of the basketball that was ever born. And if he was 5 years younger, it would be a no-brainer.
You'd be blowing
and that's
up.
why a much younger Giannis, if I'm the Knicks and I'm going to trade Karl Anthony Towns, a much younger Giannis would be a much more attractive package to me.
This is, to me, how you get there is KD's getting his last year. You're opening up a salary spot. Like you're clearing cap, basically.
And you trade Cat for KD, you have a year with KD, and then you make a Giannis
and then you try to open up money, and then that's where Giannis has the ability.
I like Kevin Durant with a giant chip on his shoulder, though. Kevin Durant lives and breathes basketball, guys. I know I don't cover it like you and Windy, but I just feel like that is his all-in. That is his life. And if you tell him New York City, 1 year, it's almost like Rodgers and the Steelers. You've got a chance to do it and erase any narrative.
Don't say Rodgers and the Steelers compares to this. Please,
I'm saying 1 year, go do it.
Let me get Windy back in here. Go ahead, Windy.
This is why for weeks I keep saying that this has to do with what Durant may want. Durant may not want to go somewhere that's not ready to extend him. He has 1 year on his contract, and this depends. If he's going to get to choose, he's probably going to want to choose someplace that wants to extend him. If you're going to trade for him as a rental, I'm not sure he's going to be as interested in going there. And the Suns don't have to listen to him, but that's why where he goes and what happens with his contract is very important in this. You can't, if a team looks at him as a rental, he may not want to go there.
And the Giannis covered. Let's get to the other piece of this that Windy talked about, which is the Jason Kidd and the coaching piece of it. Mike T, when we were talking, and again, Mike T was a general manager in 2 different places in the NFL, so you understand the chess game that is being played. What is it you said to us in our meeting this morning about the way these decisions get made?
This search started several months ago, Greeny, and here's why. You need to know what your alternatives are. Look, Coach Thibodeau got him to the finals, as Windy just alluded to. So if it's, fill in the blank, Danny Hurley, Jay Wright, you're talking to those people. You're assessing what your options are. You're not indiscriminately waking up when you lose to the Pacers, say, oh, we're going to move on from Coach Thibodeau. They know what the chessboard looks like. They know what their options are. And they must feel really good about Coach X, because if not, you can't make this move without a viable solution.
So you're saying they probably kicked the tires on every one of those options. We've heard Jay Wright's not interested, whatever the situation is with Hurley. And now it's out there that the guy they want is Kidd. Is there a concern that if for whatever reason now Jason Kidd doesn't come, whatever winds up happening, it's going to appear as though the Knicks didn't get the guy they want?
Well, you have more than one option. He's right now the first target, right? That's the first one you go for. Clearly, he's interested in coming. What's it going to cost? 2 second-round picks? It's the one thing the Knicks have is a ton of second-round picks. So you throw those on the table and you make the deal done if he wants to go. Dallas is the only one here now. They could say no, but do you really want that situation with a coach where he doesn't really want to be there? So that's all something to watch. And let's just say it doesn't work out. Let's say they can't do it. I'm telling you, there is more than one, and it could be another coach that is working for another team. We shall see.
Teaser.
I
ain't see no fingers, but I got
look,
I don't need to do that.
I'm not O's. I can't figure out who it is you're talking about.
I'm just saying.
Can I take a guess?
I am telling you that, you don't fire a coach with those credentials and that resume if you don't have the options that you know. I know one of these is going to happen.
I would rather have Udoka, who came from that Boston market.
Yeah,
and
Houston's not letting him go.
They're not letting him go.
Windy, final word.
I know that there's a lot of excitement about the Knicks, but the Knicks have a lot of competition in this field, including for the head coach. The competition is the coach is under contract. So you should never assume anything in the NBA when a player or coach is under contract.
Fair enough. The win.